Okay, so giant haul video today. I'm really excited to show you some of the stuff that I got. For some of you guys who have been to the channel before, you know that recently I made a decision to go with a 6-meter container back to the States, which is like, you know, the 20-foot international shipping container as opposed to the 40-foot container. I wanted to kind of speed up the process and get through the learning curve on this first container. So what I did was I took a trip and determined that I'm gonna buy everything I need to fill out this container. And so I have a lot of stuff to show you today, some big stuff, and I even have a couple military helicopter tails. So check that stuff out, and yeah, stay to the end because it's really cool stuff. Okay, so the first thing I wanted to show you were these cast iron porcelain enamel shelf brackets, and they're pretty large. They are ultra heavy, and like I said, they're solid iron porcelain enamel, and they would have hung in a shop, like in a butcher shop. So I want to pair these with like a really thick black piece of slate for the shelf, and I think they'd be really cool. They do show their wear and their age. Clean that up and clear coat them, and they're ready to go. Really like these. Okay, so it's no secret that I really like utilitarian stuff that can go in a loft style apartment, and stuff that actually kind of expresses quality, engineering, and purpose. So here is a surgical table, and around Poland there are a number of companies that deal in liquidations from military surplus, and they buy stuff at auction, and then you can come and walk their yards, and they just have all kinds of different interesting things. And this is an aluminum surgical table for a field operation, and it has all these cool levers and articulating legs and latches and perforated mesh top, and it's super cool. It's got really neat feet on them, and yeah, so I thought this would be great as like a bar table to just sit your bottles and cups and stuff on. And this headpiece is actually removable, but I think it kind of gives it some character and style. So yeah, what do you guys think about this guy? So my method is to kind of search online and find really cool stuff, and then I'll drive to these little out-of-the-way towns to pick the stuff up. And on more than one occasion, it's kind of been the case where somebody new to the area was kind of not typical, and the neighbors would come over to check out what's going on. And I have to say that in the beginning, they treat you with a little bit of trepidation, but once you buy a couple things and they realize you're interested in old stuff, the floodgates kind of open. And I was invited into a couple of like barn attics, and they're in these old German homes. This part of Poland was actually ceded to Germany for a long time before the Second World War. And yeah, so they have these old German houses, and lots of stuff was stored in the attics because nobody throws anything away. So I picked up a number of little things, and these are things that I hadn't planned on picking up, but they're kind of interesting, and they're kind of worth mentioning, because I think one thing that I really need to focus on is getting lots of kind of medium and small items that people can purchase from me as like an impulse buy. So that kind of helps the numbers when I'll do the antique show, or at least that's my prediction and expectation. I'm still a freshman at this. So yeah, so let's check out some of the little extra things that I hadn't planned on picking up that presented themselves along the journey. So okay, so if you remember from my last video, I found this giant demijohn wine bottle, and as a 6-foot person it came almost up to my between my knee and my hip. And here are two more that I found. I guess every kind of farm property all over the place over here has these kind of stored away, because at one time they were super useful. People made their own wine, their own alcohol. So these are, see, this green one here is above my knee, and this one here is right at my knee. These were full of like really old hay that was kind of woven together and was form fitted around the bottle to protect them from getting chipped or cracked. in the basket. But I had to remove that because I can't send any actual biological material to the States. So once I get there, I'll go to Hobby Lobby and get some kind of imitation hay to pack around them. So these are really cool. They come with baskets, and I saw these at Round Tap for like between 90 and 110 bucks or something like that for just the bottles. I don't know how much the baskets actually add to the value. If somebody kind of knows about these things, please leave some information for me in the comments section. Okay, here is an industrial trash can. It has kind of an interesting story because, well, first of all, it's super industrial. It's got the stamped labels on it, welded pieces. It's made of thick steel, and it's like an Oscar the Grouch industrial trash can. And I saw one similar to it, and my eyes kind of popped open because I just really like the look of it. And I said, oh man, if that was metal, I'd buy that from you. And then the guy standing next to the person I was talking to said, I got one of those. It looks just like that. It's metal. I'll sell it to you. And I didn't believe him at first. I mean, exactly like this? And he's like, yeah. I said, exactly? Because what are the chances that like something with that much character in it, and he would have like a metal version of the plastic one that I just saw when I'd never seen any of them at all before. And he said, yeah. And he said, come on over to my house. And so I said, why not? I might see something else that I like, even though the trash can's not going to pan out. And then we got there, and this thing was basically identical to that rubber plastic one. So it was pretty cool. And it's got this sticker on it with number 26. It's like a really old sticker. It's not new. And gives it a lot of character as well. I think that's how they identified them to the addresses or something. So super heavy duty, industrial, and they don't make them like that anymore. And the number is pretty sweet too. Quick update, I just found out that these numbers were, you know, times were tough back in the day, and these numbers were designed so that nobody would steal it. So you would think that they'd find a better method than a sticker, because that could be peeled off. So yeah. Okay, so these old aluminum or pot metal milk cans are kind of a known quantity everywhere, even back in the States. So I think it'll be pretty easy for me to find out what they're worth. But every barn has a few of these. This one is still complete. It's got somebody's name on it. I think they turned it in, then it was filled and then returned to the homeowner with product in it. And it has this steel apparatus for cinching it down and making it airtight. So these were kind of afterthoughts. They just happened to be, and they offered them to me for very cheap. So I'm going to be looking those up, and if they have any kind of real value, I think that might be one of those things for little smalls that I can always throw into the container. So another thing here is this giant medical bottle. This came with some kind of a chemical in it, and bottles and glass are something I kind of need to learn about, because I have seen both in the military liquidator place and in some of the barns that there are medical bottles with like Latin names on them and stuff basically everywhere over here. So I know that bottles are very collectible, and they all have kind of like a determined market values, and I don't know anything about those. So I tend to just buy things that I like for the decorative value, that I can just put a price on, that I think it's worth, or that I think somebody would pay for it. And once you get into collectible stuff, that's a little bit more risky. So but even with something like this, I can just keep my own model and put a price on it based on just what the decorative value could be. So this isn't super special or anything, but yeah, it was there, and it wasn't really any money. I think actually I even got it almost for free. So one thing that I was really shocked to learn about was kind of the value of old stools, and especially those like three-legged milking stools. There was an Amish guy who owns a antiques shop in a town near where I live in central Illinois, and he said that's one thing that I should always keep an eye out for over here, because they sell really quick and for good money, like $100 each. And I picked one up the other day for like $7.50. I'll put a picture of that here, and you can get those pretty regularly here. These particular ones, they have very kind of undesirable tops on them. Somebody put them on later. They're not milking stools, but they are cast aluminum, and I can put a new top on them, and they're kind of quaint little matching. Okay, so just a couple more little unexpected pickups. This is a camp stove. It's made out of brass, and it actually says here made in the USSR. So, which is kind of interesting, because if it was made for the Soviet Union, for people to use there, it would probably have that in Cyrillic text here, but it's in English. So not sure if that was made for export or what that was, but it's definitely old. It's got some corrosion to the brass a little bit there, and some verdigris up here, and it's just kind of a little curiosity. So didn't pay very much for it. I think I paid about $7 for that. So we'll see. Maybe somebody will find that interesting. This was actually a gift from somebody, and they just kind of threw it in. And it's a German, I think it's a railroad light, but it could have just been a regular home lantern. I'm not sure. Not educated on these things, but I think the first thing that comes to mind is railroad light when you see this. And definitely German. The writing there is German, and for people who know about that kind of thing, there's the, I wish you can pause that to read it. So it's got some red glass in it, and needs a good cleaning, but kind of a interesting little impulse buy pickup type thing. So here is a gigantic light socket, and it's actually two sockets in one, because it's a down converter, and then it would have to get another down conversion ceramic piece for a regular light bulb. So it would be like 3 steps to get down. I don't know if there are any industrial lamps still available that I could find that would actually fit that big socket there. So, but if you need it, they're hard to find. So I'll just hold on to that. And then here was another kind of a random piece that we dug out. And this had probably a glass lantern or a glass globe underneath it. So it is an electric lamp. And I'll figure out something to put on it as well. So I don't know if you can see this, it's kind of dirty, but this is actually white porcelain enamel, and it's on an iron or a steel bar, and it's got some steel hooks in it, and this hung up in a butcher shop, so meat would hang from these. So it's got a few missing pieces, so I think what I'll do is I'll move that here and then cut off the excess. And you can get these in longer sections, but I think if I cut this down with these hooks moved in, it'll be just the right height for a small kitchen. So my name is Chris, and I have a serious addiction, and that addiction is buying heavy, hardcore industrial furniture that's so heavy it takes 6 full-grown adults to move it. So this is the latest thing that I got, and it is super heavy. When I kind of squat down and grab that and put all my power into it, I can barely get it up just an inch above the ground, and then it crashes back down. So it is super heavy, and I bought it because it'd be a great industrial furniture piece. I'm gonna pour a concrete tabletop and use acid to etch the concrete and to stain it so it'll look really good together. So I may also end up putting something here on the side, and oh, that's a full-grown German Shepherd, so you can kind of get some scale. Right, Elmo? Okay, his name's Elmo. Funny name for a funny dog. Okay, so yeah, that's really cool. This is a welding table, I think, and I don't know if it was made in somebody's garage or if it's actually factory built, because this hardware is really strong and it looks like it was really well planned out. So at one point there was a vise here, but yeah, I think the only thing I'm going to do is put that top on it, clean it up, get it really clean, and then maybe put some casters on it so it's easier to move around. So yeah, love that old heavy work table stuff. So here's another one, and this is a military desk, Polish military from Cold War era. And at the moment it's got a lamp that I just put on myself here. This is probably like 1920s or 1930s. It's got an articulating arm here with a releasing lever and then a clamp there that holds it to the table. So I just thought it looked good with this table while it's sitting out here. But yeah, these tables are ultra heavy. They're a steel frame, wood shelves, and they're really cool because they still have those military labels on every shelf. And if you open them up, there's all this kind of hardware because I think it was communications, like the yellow one that I have, desk. And these would be in the campers, or those like big trucks that are like personnel carriers, and they're like mobile stations, and inside those are these desks. So this has like a swing out hinge here, and if you pull the trigger down, you can put it there, and then it locks into place, and then you can't open the drawers. And then there's a little slot at the bottom for a padlock. So it's a safety mechanism to keep people from getting in to look at documents or equipment or whatever. So the only thing I'm not sure is what to do about this top, because you can see where the tools were mounted. But yeah, I have some thinking to do on that. And then really, it doesn't really need anything other than that. Oh yeah, it does need one thing. Because this was in a vehicle, the back of it was supported by, my shadow's there, the back of it was supported by the wheel hubs. So there was no reason for back legs. So I'm gonna have to weld on some back legs to it and match the paint. But yeah, other than that, it is 100% ready to go. It just needs cleaned up and something done with the top. Okay, so this is an old homemade clothing rack. I hope that wind's not too bad in the microphone. It's wrought iron and welded, and it's kind of simple, a little bit naive, and nothing too special, but it is an antique, vintage, chippy white clothing rack, so it's pretty cool. The reason I kind of picked it up was because I thought it would be the perfect place to hang that wrought handmade chandelier that I have. So a good way to display it. So yeah. Okay, so this next little trove of stuff I'm really excited to show you because it ticks a lot of boxes. Man, that bird is really loud. It ticks a lot of boxes. It's vintage, it's antique, it is highly collectible. It is kind of connected with carnival and circus type stuff. It is connected with Disney and Warner Brothers and children's cartoons. And it is also kind of Soviet stuff. So this stuff came from a traveling carnival in the Soviet Union here in Poland. And I've got a lot of figures and some really cool steel signs to show you. I picked them up as one giant lot, and really excited. Check this out. Okay, so let's see if we get a little bit closer look here. These are definitely not licensed characters. That is Pluto, and there we have a Donald Duck, and then another Pluto. He's still got his number there. These were actually on a carnival ride, so you know, the things that go around in circles with the big canopy over them and the lights. And not only were these things painted very naively, they were painted very naively like 100 times, and they have a lot of chipping, a lot of really cool characters. Some of them have the original wood bases on them, or they, you know, that were used to secure them. And what's really cool about them is they're a carnival ride. They're Soviet. They're very interesting. They're kind of folk art pieces, and they're not so big that you couldn't use them as an interior design piece. So this is about knee high, and it could go on a shelf or on a table and, you know, be right at home if somebody's got kind of a cool, quirky look that they're going for. So if we get a little bit closer look at him there. Good old Donald Duck. And then here we have like a mother goose. She's got some of her numbers showing there. I think the last two numbers that she had were both 6s. And like I said, they're very naively painted, but really quirky, unique items. Still got a wood base on the original base. So, okay, so that brings us to this carousel horse. And look at the paint on that. This is made from like a heavier composite material than the Disney and the other animals over there. And for some reason, the paint bonded to this a little bit better. And as it's chipped away, it almost has like a kind of a mottled, sanded look where all the different layers and colors are kind of showing through. It's not very chippy. What's there is going to be there. So love this thing. And it's got 3 broken legs. I've got 2 of them. The great thing is they didn't crumble. They actually fit perfectly back onto where they broke off. And then the 4th leg, I don't know if I should just leave it missing or try to make a second one by molding one of the other legs. Probably just leave it off and let whoever is interested in it deal with that. You can actually face it the way that all the legs show, and then the missing one would be behind. So size wise, this is about, I would say, just under 3 feet from front to back, and then maybe 2 feet tall. So it's just an estimation, but just a gorgeous thing. Okay, so you ready for something really cool? Here are 16 vintage steel signs. Now these are characters that I'm sure you'll recognize. We've got Disney, we've got Warner Brothers, we've got different intellectual properties. I think here we've got Minnie Mouse, Yogi Bear, Jerry. Obviously these aren't licensed. These intellectual properties would never be kind of in the same product. But once again, they do check a lot of boxes. They are carnival and circus related. They're Soviet, they're vintage. There's a collectability factor in the sense that they're just hand-painted vintage signs. And I have a collection of 16 of them, like I said. And not sure how to clean these guys because I think I heard somebody say you can cut a potato in half and then like wipe it across there and it'll pick up a lot of the dirt and not do any damage to them. So they're in remarkably good condition. They're in heavy steel plates. So I think they weigh at least 10 pounds each, and they're about 4 feet in length. So I don't recognize all of the characters. I'm sure they're all kind of existing properties. And they would have, like I said, hung up around the perimeter on the ride, so around the fence that kind of goes around the carousel. So there are, I think, about three of them that have some undesirable kind of damage. There's Tom, he's got something going on there. And Mr. Jetson is missing a little bit of his head there. And I think there's one Scooby over here. It's a little bit damaged. Those can either be touched up or left just as they are. And I have no idea what the value on these are. So I think it's kind of what somebody would be willing to pay for them. So I would love if people have kind of an idea what they think. If you visit antique shows and vintage shows and that kind of thing, and you've seen something like this, if you could write in the comments, or if you know about vintage hand-painted signs, what you think maybe these are worth. That would be a really cool conversation kind of to have in the box below the video here. So yeah, please make a comment and let me know what you think these should be priced at an antique show. My personal preference would be find somebody who's like really interested in this kind of thing and just sell it as a lot. So I did pay a little bit for it, and so I wouldn't be really willing to part with it too cheap, but I would like it to go to somebody who would just buy it all together and keep it. So let's take a look at some of them. Jerry, Minnie, random cat. Sorry, I don't know all the names. We got the Flintstones here, and we got a couple Scoobies. Jetsons, and Yogi Bear. And then these, like I said, these cats, which I don't really recognize. So one other thing to note is I actually have the original stencil pack that they used to paint these. So it was handmade by the guy who owned the Carnival, or the artist for the Carnival, and they made their own stencils. Oh, there's Deputy Dog over there, right between the Jetsons. But yeah, I have that original stencil pack, which I could potentially sell with these signs, or I could sell those as a standalone kind of product. So yeah, super excited. Okay, now, like I promised, we're gonna get to some of the bigger stuff that you might be pretty interested in checking out. So let's go check that out. Okay, so this is a really cool heavy-duty industrial medical cabinet, and it's got 3 sides are glass, thick, heavy glass, and the hardware on it is really good. The key's still intact, and lately here in Poland, there's kind of been a renaissance, and people are kind of nostalgic for those things that they had back when Soviet times were here. So these are kind of hard to come by these days. They're getting harder and harder. So the cool thing to do with them is to take the paint off and bring them back down to the bare metal, so you can get a brushed steel look. And I'll insert a video, or I'm sorry, I'll insert a picture of that here, so you can check that out. But yeah, there's like really solid legs, and pretty cool. Actually, I've got 2 of them. This one's actually laying on its side, and at the bottom it's got a lock box for whatever goodies they were trying to hide and keep safe. It's got the original key and hardware, and yeah. So okay, this is kind of big and it's in the shade, so not really able to move it at the moment. This is an old wooden box. It's got some iron hardware, and it's got a Red Cross symbol on the tops and sides. It's also got some cool lettering and numbering on it. So when things were kind of tough here in Poland during the Soviet Union, they received, I think in the early 70s, some assistance from Scandinavia. And these boxes are kind of vintage. I don't know if they qualify as antique, from that period when aid was sent. So I think this would be really cool with a glass top on it. It's got Red Cross there, and I think I'm sure actually it opens. I got to figure out how that actually works. And I have a large one and a medium one. So I thought those would be cool just as tables, or some interesting storage for somebody. So did not pay a whole lot for them. So it was kind of a cool no-brainer type of a thing. Okay, and just one more thing before we get to the helicopter tales. I bought these as a group of 3, and they're from the 1960s, and they were actually brought here to Poland from England. And when I saw them in the picture, I didn't realize how substantial and heavy they are. I guess it should have been obvious, because they need to be super heavy and sturdy to actually perform their job. But the suede on them is really good condition, and on this particular one, it's more of a processed leather, and there is a contemporaneous repair right there, but the repair's already been done. And yeah, it's got some vintage paint and patina on it, and it looks really good. So these are going to take up a lot of room in the container, so it was kind of a hard choice to make. They're also not something that people can buy as kind of an impulse buy that would easily move at the antique show. So I had to give a lot of thought about it, but in the end, because of what's going on in Ukraine and other things, the dollar kind of bounced back against the Polish zloty, and the price was kind of too good to resist. So these, I think consistently back in the States, will go for about $1,600 or so. And what did I pay for them? I have to do the conversion in my head real quick. I paid about $390 for each one. So yeah, these have those kind of cool wheels so that you can easily move them, and they look great in a loft style apartment. So let's see if I can walk over and check them out in the sunlight here a little bit better. Okay, let's go check out that helicopter tail. Okay, as promised, I do have these gigantic helicopter tails. They're German Luftwaffe from a helicopter. I think he said it was from the 1990s. So it's newer than Soviet era. They're made out of aluminum and they're super light, and they're kind of gigantic. They're almost 4 meters long, and this one's really cool because it has the insignia right there painted onto it. So yeah, they're super tall, and that is the reason I bought these giant iron bases that have these holes in them, 3 of them, so I can put some gigantic carriage bolts and drive them into the ground and stake it down, and that'll work as a perfect base for standing these upright. I'm going to insert a picture right here so you can get a sense of the scope and the scale of these things. But right here on the back of them are these like mounting brackets on both of them, and I can put a light switch here between these, and then put an internal light and maybe some red glass over that. And then up at the top, they've got lots of light bulb holes. Maybe I'll do something with that. And then a light here, potentially. And then maybe some LED strip lighting along there. So one on each side of a driveway or a business entrance would be really cool. So I bought these from a guy who does set design for the movies over here. They're actually working on the new Netflix movie that's being filmed in Poland. And he buys things as set pieces for set design, and then has to get rid of them after the production's over. So he has lots of kind of cool, unique stuff. And I wasn't aware of it, so I went to pick these up and then saw all the stuff he had. Unfortunately, my container is almost full. By no means have I shown everything on YouTube that's going into the container, but I definitely have enough, and it's going to be packed to the brim when it goes. Yeah, it's like all stuff that's really not typical, very unique, stuff that you don't see every day when you're back home. So I think that's the #1 factor that makes things sellable. After that, probably quality, and yeah. So that's it for today, and now I'm going to kind of move into the next phase, which is trying to figure out how to get this legally back to the States. So I'm also going to share that process on my YouTube channel. I don't know how long that's going to take, but as information kind of trickles in, I'll share that with you guys. So thanks for checking it out, and I'll talk to you soon.